So this morning I got actually several topics to cover, but this one right here from Barry Vallon 1072 says, great couple of podcasts. What would you say to the Gnostics who describe Yehovah as a tribal God and El as his superior? This is unfortunately getting hammered out there in Layla land. Now, I guess you mean La La land, but so the best way to deal with this is to go back to the scripture. Cephas, not Peter, but Cephas warned that people would twist the scripture, the words of Paul, like they did with all of the other scriptures, and they do so to their own destruction. So it would be wise of everybody to be careful with the scripture and not fall into that trap. So I suppose that argument comes from this statement on Google. Today we understand the terms El, and they incorrectly say Yahweh, it's Yehovah, and Elohim and their derivatives to be synonyms. Originally, they were distinct deities that were eventually merged into one, as was common practice in antiquity. The two words have slightly different definitions. One of them is the description. One of them is his name, and the other one is the description of him. Now, El is a description of him, and it's used a little bit more loosely than Yehovah. Yehovah is one singular personage. So let's give you an example. Here in Psalm 82 verse 6, and this explains a usage of the word Elohim. To say Elohim, the children of the Most High. So clearly he was talking about men. Men are the children of the Most High, and in that way they are Elohim. Now, Yehoshua pointed this out to the Pharisees, and they accused him of blasphemy. But it's written right there in Psalm. Because you see, men were made in the image and the likeness of Yehovah, Elohim. So, as David pointed out, to say Elohim, the children of the Most High. So the children of the Most High are, in a sense, Elohim. But, here's what else it says. But you shall die like men, and fall like captains commanding an army when he falls. You see? So, it's a different sense. But the Elohim is Yehovah. I hope that makes sense to you. Now, concerning Yehovah, you've often heard lately in the sports world, and when I first heard it, I thought it was ridiculous what they were doing. What does I'm him mean? Okay. Now, I'm not going this in the order that I wanted, but just keep this in the back of your mind, okay? Now, God, on the other hand, which the word God comes from, is an early Germanic name from a Proto-Germanic Gautaz, which represents a mythical ancestor or national, tribal, god in the original myth of the Geats. Now, if you go further, Gautaz, connected to the name in the Swedish river Gota, and the city at the city of Gothenburg, the Geatish ethnonym Gautaz is related to the ethnonym of the Goths of the goose of the island of Gotland, derived from Proto-Germanic Guto, or as it's a Germanic, the word God is the tribal, and even Yehovah himself says he is Yehovah Elohim of Israel. But to say that somehow El is higher than Yehovah is absolute nonsense. Okay? And of course that means that the word God is idolatry, is of idolatry. Same way with Deus. So if you look up the word Deus in Latin, this is what Google says. But if you look at the origin comes from Zeus or Zeus. And if you read, if you are a scholar, if you are a studier, if you read Revelation 2 concerning Pergamos, speaking of where Satan dwells and the altar of Zeus or Zeus. So the Latin Christians, they worship Satan. And so do all the Gentiles, according to Paul. Actually, I will need to go there now that I've gone down that rabbit hole. Okay, this is not helpful. Fellowship with devils. I'm on. 1 Corinthians 10:20. So Paul said this, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to Elohim. Those other tribal gods, as they say, they're devils. I would not that you have fellowship with devils. So you have to make a distinction between God and Yehovah Elohim of Israel. You have to make a distinction between Jesus, which was born in 834 BCE, and Yehoshua, which was born hundreds of years later. A Jew. And Jesus was not a Jew, as I pointed out to, as I just replayed a video from 2 or 3 years ago, recently. Okay, so what does Yehovah mean? Moses said unto Elohim, when I come into the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, that the Elohim of your fathers has sent me unto you, they shall say to me, remember, the Elohim of your fathers. Does not say of the Gentiles. What is your name? What shall I say unto them? And Elohim said unto Moshe, Hayah, Hayah. What does that mean? Well, once again, since this is Hebrew, how do I say this? The color of meaning, the nuances of meaning differ from language to language. So you literally have to be a Hebrew speaker in order to really understand this. It came to be. That's what it means. He came to be. And then, so that's what he said. But what is the name that is used? Yehovah, which comes from Hava, which is like Haya. Okay? Well, it means to become. So we just saw in Haya, to become, and this Hava, to become, is the same definition. So King James Version was correct when they inserted in English, I am, that I am. Now, this goes back to these athletes claiming that I am or I'm him. It's the same thing. Not the same in word usage, but the same definition. And when they say that, they're saying they are the greatest. Okay, I hope that I have made some sense here. I don't think I need to continue on this subject any further. I want to go straight into the others. Which one shall I do first? Okay, so I think I'll do this first. You have often read, if you are a Bible scholar, we will go first to Revelation 6. Since Christians love to avoid the prophets, but I tell you, it is a mistake to avoid the words of the prophets, because the words of the prophets is where all of these came from. Now, when John was receiving these visions, it was like this. I'm going to show you something. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard the noise of thunder, and one of the four beasts saying, Come or go and look. So he's looking into something. What is he looking into? He's looking into the place where the seal was open. The closest thing we can come up to that is a TV screen or a computer screen. So he was looking at something that he pulled the seal off of, and he was told to go and look. It's not like this was all completely around him. He saw a visual, a moving visual, but he had to actually move his body, to move his feet, to go and look in his vision. Okay? Just to give you an idea of what was going on here. So when we see in the sixth seal, and I beheld, and he opened the sixth seal, and I beheld that there was a great earthquake. Where would that great earthquake be? Well, it would be centered in the land of Israel, because this when the Gentiles are getting all their military equipment in Israel, like it shows in Ezekiel 38 and 39 and Yoel 3. Okay? Because in Yoel 3, it says the sun becomes black as sackcloth of hair and the moon became as blood. It says the same thing. All right, so we know that it's the same. Now look here. It says, and the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs when she is shaken with a mighty wind. So we go back to Isaiah 34, and see, it says right here that the definition of the word star is aster. Okay? In Greek, that's stars, but they could be a star as strewn over the sky, literally or figuratively. You know, kind of like shooting stars or meteors. So it could be figuratively. Now let's go see what Isaiah. You're going to see something remember when I told you about the color and nuances of definition of words in different languages? We have to expand our ability to think. When we read these things, it says the army warfare. War, okay? War. So it's a war. Army, battle, combat, conflict. Hosts is army. Army. Organized for war. Organized for, okay, all right, let's go with this. Doesn't say all the hosts of heaven. It just says the war of heaven. What does heaven mean? War in the sky. Shemayim is the same word for the atmosphere and outer space, and where Yehovah's domain is. Same word. So, this clearly is talking about the atmosphere. Why? Well, we'll continue reading. Shemayim will not be rolled together. That is incorrect. But roll away from each other. It's like a blast that pushes the winds away from the center to the north, south, east, and west. Now, those of you who are familiar with bombs, you know exactly what that means. The bigger the bomb, the more the wind is pushed north, south, east, and west away from the epicenter. All right? So, and their hosts. Now watch this. Their warfare shall, it says, fall down. But Nabal means as a leaf falleth from the vine. So this is where they've got that the stars fall from heaven over there in Revelation 6 as a falling fig from the fig tree. But let's look at this word here. Nabal. Let's look at it. To be foolish. To sink or drop down. Usually like a leaf, flower, wither, and fade. There's more here. Where was it that I saw? It says to rot, or to cause flesh to rot. It says so. I saw it. I saw it. Saw it. I looked and I saw it, and this was the main reason why I was doing this video. Okay. Where did I see it? Maybe I'm looking at the wrong word. Okay. So, the warfare of Shemayim. This is the word. Machak. Will, it says, fester, rot, rot away, rotting away, wasting away, wearing away. Now watch this. Watch this. Zechariah 14:12. Everyone who understands Scripture knows that that's talking about nuclear weapons. Looky here, a causing his flesh to rot. So if we go to, open a new tab, Zechariah 14:12. Why is, oh. How am I going to get out of this? Let's just hit strong and see what happens. There we go. Verse 12. Right. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yehovah will smite the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. While they're standing upon their feet. We all know what that means. Back in those days, people did not understand what that meant. Why is this going to happen? In that day, a great tumult from Yehovah shall be among them. Among who? All the nations that have fought against Jerusalem, aka the Roman Empire. And everyone shall grab the hold of the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. This is the final world war, while Yehuda is fighting at Jerusalem. While the Yoel 3 war is taking place. So we know now that this situation here is referred to more than once in the prophets. So when it says the warfare of heaven will rot flesh, that's what it's saying right here. Causing flesh to rot, pointing out right here in Zechariah 14 and verse 12. All right. So I learned something new today. So what is this word astra or star? Astra is accusative plural form of the Latin word astrum, star, from ancient Greek. Now what I want to show you is this. All right. This is Israel's Iron Dome air defense system, fires to intercept a rocket from the Gaza Strip, etc. So this is You know, it kind of looks like falling stars. It kind of looks like, which is what they called meteorite back in the day, right? Now looky here. France's, this is on War News 24/7. French Ministry of Defense orders industries to mass produce Aster, which is the word for star. 15 and 30 missiles. So now it gives credence to the Isaiah 34 and verse 4, that this is talking about weapons of war that are called asters. So when we go to Revelation 6 and verse 13, we have context. Now we know what this means. These are not just any stars falling from heaven. See, I did not interpret this. We did some studying today, and we go where it was originally mentioned in the prophet Isaiah, and we find that these stars are implements of warfare that rots flesh. That's mentioned in Zechariah 12, or Zechariah 14 and verse 12. How do you like that? That's pretty cool, huh? But I tell you what's not cool, and that is this. Now, let us have a look at this particular video, all right? And I want to start right here. I don't want to take too much time, but it just says Joe Rogan sees something in college protests that no one else sees. Man, we have, people like me, we have seen that for years. I've seen this video from this particular Russian fellow.
Subversion, that is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets used the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism.
It almost feels like that video.
Okay. 19 what?
1984, former
1984, that video. All right? Now, what we have here today is a result of this. Columbia University faces full-blown crisis. This is universities all across the country. You see, the Soviet Union, many, many years ago, prepared the psychological warfare and the end result that we see today. in order to destroy not only the United States of America through psychological warfare, which it's obvious that they have done, but also destroy the entirety of Western civilization. Because it is being said, a world without Russia in it shall not exist. You will hear that phrase more often as time goes along. And this is coming from the Russian elites. And what that means is that if Russia is not a dominant force in this world, that they are going to destroy the whole world. Russia will. Okay. So Columbia University faces full-blown crisis as a rabbi calls for Jewish students to return home, or to stay home is what it should read. Because ever since the Philistines in Gaza attacked the Jews in Israel, academia, where this brainwashing occurred, all over the country, there have been riots and protests by the students. So much so that I believe it was Columbia University has told them to stop writing or they will be suspended. So White House condemns calls for violence against the Jews. So you can see, and then in Washington, D.C., it may have been at Columbia University. I don't even know where Columbia University is. I am not a university scholar. But in Washington, D.C., somebody was yelling, "Kill the Jews." You see. So where did all this come from? Soviet Union. Now, who invented the word Palestine anyway? Where did it come from? Well, some people claimed it was invented by Hadrian, but it was not. Some people claim it was beforehand. Herodotus, the first clear use of the term Palestine to refer to the entire area between Phoenicia and Egypt was 5th century BCE ancient Greece. Well, if you read Zechariah, we'll go there. Zechariah 9. Right? Of course, this is talking about when Damascus and Hadrach is going to be demolished. Let me show you something here. What was I? So, he's going to cause the prisoners, that's the Jews, of hope, to return to the stronghold. He's going to give them double blessing. He says, when I have bent or marched Yehuda, and filled the bow with a frame, and raised up your sons, O Zion, against your sons, O Yavan, which is Greece. So there's going to be a war against the sons of Zion and against the sons of Greece. Where did Western civilization come from? Greece. You can Google it, you can find it. I don't need to spoon feed that to you. So, but the improper usage of the word Palestine came from Greece because they referred it to the whole area instead of what Yoel refers that area as. Oh, Yoel 3. And I have often gone to this particular passage, scripture, because it says in those days, in that time, he is going to return the captives of Yehuda and Jerusalem. What captives? Well, the ones that were taken into Rome in 74 AD, 74 CE, however you want to say it. To gather the Gentiles, to bring them down into the valley of judgment, and judge the Gentiles for my people, for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the Gentiles and parted my land. Verse 4. Tyre, Zidon, that would be southern Lebanon, where Hezbollah reigns supreme, and the coast, or the circuit of, as King James Version says, Palestine. Now, the name was Pelesheth, and that's what they call the Philistines. And where is that location? A territory on the South Mediterranean coast of Israel. So, that would be Gaza. So Israel is not Palestine. Never was Palestine, never will be Palestine. And to refer to the Holy Land, to the land of Israel as Palestine, is a hate crime, is libelous, is slander, is blasphemy. And all of this hate coming out of these universities, maybe these young students will take up arms and come and fight against Yehoshua. And see their final end. Who knows? So, let me show you this. Russia, aka the Soviet Union, has worked undercover for a long time to undermine Western civilization led by the United States of America, and it looks like they have succeeded. Russia will sink Britain under a nuclear tide with Sarmat 2 missile, not Satan 2, Sarmat 2, if NATO intervenes in Ukraine. Well, NATO is already intervening in Ukraine. Vows top Putin stooge. That's not how you should approach this. This particular fellow is the head of the propaganda in Russia. Okay? His name is Dmitry Kiselyov. Warned that any bid by the West to inflict a strategic defeat in Russia would result in Armageddon. Is there a video here? I think there. I wish I had the video, but you can find the video. Alright. Threatened a nuclear attack on Britain. Top Putin crony Kiselyov warned Russia will sink Britain under a nuclear tidal wave if NATO sends troops to Ukraine. Putin has been stuffing both Belarus and its westerly enclave of Kaliningrad with nuclear-capable missiles. And Russia vows to strike NATO's nuclear sites if deployed to Poland. Kiselyov, a TV presenter who is also overall chief of Russia's largest propaganda empire, said Putin would unleash his Sarmat-2 and other deadly nuclear missiles. The hardliner warned the West not to drive Putin into a corner. Speaking on national television, Kiselyov said if NATO countries send their troops into Ukraine in order to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia, then the very moment about which Putin once said, "Why do we need the world if there is no Russia in it?" would come. That's the phrase I was looking for. And what that essentially means, if there is a world with Russia in it, that world will cease to exist. And so, folks, what he's doing is threatening to destroy the entire world and everybody on it if Russia does not exist. Then everything, all types of missile would be launched by us in every direction, Sarmats, Yars, and Avant-Gardes at American decision-making centers and launchers on land and sea are already in their sights. France as a nuclear power will have to be disarmed instantly. The British Isles will simply go underwater. We have all the required technology for this, but it is better not to let things get to that point. Well, things will get to that point because it is prophesied. We just read several of the prophecies this morning. So it will get to this point. So I ask everybody to prepare yourselves for this event because it's coming. And Revelation 9 verses 17, 18, 19 says that 1/3 of man will be killed by that event alone. 1/3. And believe me when I tell you that if Russia starts launching these missiles at Western nations and the Western nations launch back, you can be sure that China and India and Pakistan will start exchanging blows as well. So, that's all I have for today.